What's up, guys? It's Eric here. Patch 13.3 is coming out tomorrow, so I wanted to do a rundown of everything that's going to be in it, my thoughts on it. It's an actually pretty big patch, sort of like huge systematic changes, and some also pretty big balance changes, specifically to a lot of the augments. So let's hop into it. I'm just going to go through these slides that Mort created that show all of the changes. This is actually a really cool change where they're just sort of consolidating some of the tooltips to make them easier to read. I never really understood why it was like this, where like Infinity Edge gives you these stats, but then it also gives you these stats. Just consolidating it down is like actually like really nice quality of life thing, but like obviously not much to be said there. Okay, here is the big change of the patch. Hero augments. You now get 4 rerolls on your hero augment, and they're independent from your 1 reroll, so you can roll as much as you want during hero augment and still keep your 1 reroll for other augments. What does this mean? I think, one, you're going to feel a lot better about using your reroll on a normal augment. If you start with like a gold augment, like I think it's a lot more reasonable to just reroll that, even though you won't be able to use it for your last augment, because you're going to be able to guarantee you have rerolls for your hero, so you don't have to like save them. The other thing is, I think forcing broken augments is going to be really important if you want to climb as much as possible, which means you need to be aware of what's really strong. So like after the patch comes out, a few days afterwards, I would just go to something like tactics.tools augments, go to hero augments and look, okay, what are the most broken hero augments at 2-1? Spirit of the Exile. If I see 2-cost hero augments, I am aggressively rolling for Spirit of the Exile. The thing is, like with 2-1, you can't really tailor it, so there's like not so much you can do. But like the 3-2 augments, obviously like a lot of the 4 costs are strong, but like once again, Spirit of the Exile kind of insane. Like the Draven one, Into the Night for Vayne, and Vayne's other one, multi-shot is very strong. Kaisa, or Kaisa's multi-shot, Vayne's is like spread shot or something like that. What you really want to be doing for 3-2 hero augment and 4-1 is consciously thinking in the early game, okay, what hero augment do I want to hit this game? And then making your board fit that. So at 3-2, having recons in so that you can roll for Vayne's augment, or having Laser Core Duelist in so you can roll for Yasuo's hero augments. It's going to be really important this patch, because if everyone else is hitting the most broken hero augment and you're just hitting like an okay one, like imagine everyone else gets insane hero augments and you end up with, like Reflector Shield or Undercurrent or something, you're just going to lose the game. So like you really need to have a plan for what hero augment you want during the game, which means becoming familiar with all of them. I think it's like honestly like a really scary change. Like I think it could really, like if there are any hero augments that are broken, which I'll talk a little bit more later with some of the hero augment changes, I think some might be quite strong. But if there are any that are broken, then the entire lobby is going to end up, like multiple people are going to be like, say for example, like getting recons in and trying to force like Into the Night, or what's Vayne's other augmented called? It's called spread shot, yeah, or like spread shot forcing. So like it's a really scary change. I'm really interested to see how it plays out. It's definitely exciting when they make a change this big, but I'm very scared for it. But well, everyone will adapt to it, and like if people end up not liking it, then they can always revert it. But yeah, I think the most important thing this patch is going to be having a plan for what hero augment you want. Obviously on 2-1, you can still have like some kind of a plan. Say like you get early AP items, say okay, like let's roll for like the Talon augment or the Silas augment and play like a Viego game. Like you can still have a lot of game plans, but like just having multiple game plans in mind, or even just like 1 or 2 game plans, saying like, okay, every game I'm just gonna try to force recon hero augments. Like that's completely reasonable when you have 4 rerolls, because if you get to 3-2 hero augment and you have your recon in, you're guaranteed to get a multi-shot or a spread shot or an Into the Night. So yeah, it's a really scary change. They gotta have hero augment balance like perfect for this to work, because if anything is balanced, then everyone's just going to force a broken one. But yeah, really, I don't want to talk too long on it, but it's a pretty crazy change. So I'm really excited to see how it plays out, but it's very scary. All right, big trait changes. So admin, the health threshold on when admins hit this amount of health trigger an ability goes from 40% to 66%. So these will trigger a lot earlier. I still think it's not amazing, but it's definitely like a lot better, So for a lot of these, like they may end up not triggering at 40%. Like if your admin is like at 40% health, your units get 70 AD or whatever it was. Like a lot of the time, if you go to 40% HP, you're just gonna die very quickly after that, or you might not even go to 40% HP sometime during a fight for your admins. until like either you've won the fight or like all your other units are dead and like maybe your admin's the last one to die and then nothing happens. So I really like this change. It makes these a lot more playable. Okay, so this is actually a huge, basically like almost reworked gadgeteen. So gadgeteens now get a percent damage, gain percent damage, and percent damage reduction for each item equipped. 3 at 3 gadgeteens in, and then once you get 5 in, you get 12% per item. The thing about gadgeteen, like 5 gadgeteen, is that like it's quite difficult to play, right? Nunu, Zoe, and Annie are great units, but like you're not going to be playing like a very, very late game Lulu or Poppy. So it's like pretty tough to get 5 in. So I think this is reasonable. If you get like +1 gadgeteen, then you can easily get in 5 just by playing Lulu and then cutting the Poppy late game, or maybe get like Poppy Hero Augment and you get like 5 in. But I think this is pretty reasonable. The 3 buff is kind of scary to me because they haven't hit Zoe at all, and I think Zoe's already quite a strong carry. This is just a straight up, if you get like a 3-item Zoe, 9% damage buff to Zoe, which is like, it's definitely sizable, and then like it's a buff to Annie's damage and damage reduction, so it's a nice like quality of life buff, like AP comps if you play Gadgeteen, which like if you're playing around like Soraka, you can easily play Annie, Zoe, and Lulu for the entire game, basically, and eventually get like a Nunu in later over like Lulu if Lulu ends up becoming Syndra. But like, I think it's quite reasonable to play 3 Gadgeteen the whole game, and like if you're playing some kind of Zoe reroll comp, I've played that before, and like you can just play 3 Gadgeteen the whole game. Very strong. It also just make it a better opener, which I love because I've really been enjoying AP, and I think Gadgeteen's a very solid opener. So I like the buff. It's just a little, like, it might be too much, honestly. We'll see. Okay, now huge changes to laser cores. So it's no longer 3, 6, 9 laser core. It's now 3, 5, 7, 9. So like the big breakpoint you're going to be going for now is like 7 ideally. I mean, it's really like 5 where you can spike really hard on level 5 potentially if you hit one of those 4-cost laser core. And then like level 7, you have to have the Mordekaiser in, right? You have Ash Renekton, Yasuo, Senna, and then the 2 4-cost Zed and Sejuani. And then to get 7, you have to hit Mordekaiser. You're not going to get 7 in very easily at like level 7 anymore, unless you get +1 laser core. Then that'll probably be a pretty big spike. But like, it's makes the comp stabilize more on 8, like around hitting a Mordekaiser. It's kind of scary because like right now you can stabilize around 6 very easily, and then adding Mordekaiser obviously makes your board better, but it's not like you need it. But like now, if you really want to cap out on the laser core board, you need to hit Mordekaiser or your game's just difficult. So yeah, I think there's a pretty big nerf to laser core, honestly, just these sort of like thresholds. They also changed the numbers, so now it always procs instead of being like a 50% chance to proc the drone shooting. They've reduced the internal cooldown, so it's firing more often, but they've really hit the damage. So you think about like 6 laser core to like 5 laser core now, it is like a third of the damage. And the number of drones are still the same until you hit, you have to hit 9 to really cap out the same way. But yeah, this to me looks like a pretty big nerf, honestly. I know it's, it does like always proc, so you do have to sort of like double these numbers. So like 5 laser core is like 90 damage, and then it's proccing more frequently. But still, like 5 to 6, that's like a pretty huge nerf. I guess once you hit 7, it is theoretically stronger because it's like basically 160, and then it's firing more frequently. But still, like this looks like a pretty big nerf to laser core. It's a very strong comp this patch, so I think that does make sense. But I am a little bit afraid of laser core just sort of like falling out of meta, just because these do look like hefty nerfs. But you know, I mean, it's very strong right now, so maybe that's an over-exaggerated fear. Like it'll probably still be strong. Okay, and let me move my face cam so you can see this. Oxforce units now stay at 1 HP after their Oxforce immunity ends. So the way this used to work, which is really weird and not explained anywhere, is that Oxforces, when they proc Oxforce, they'd set themselves to -1 HP, and then after their Oxforce immunity ends, they would just die because they're at -1. And the only way that you could save them is by healing them up. This is why, if you looked at the stats, Hextech Gunblade was broken in the Viego comp, because Hextech Gunblade heals your lowest unit's HP. So what that would do is Viego would do some damage, and it would heal up your Ox forces that were below their immunity, or below their HP threshold. They're at -1 HP, and then they'd live for longer. So now Gunblade isn't as necessary anymore. I'm sure it will still be quite strong, because healing someone who's 1 HP up will still be pretty good, but it won't be as necessary. This also allows you, I believe the idea is that you can like proc Thrill the Hunt by killing them, or like on kill, any on kill effects. It's easier to proc on your opponent's Ox Forces. So yeah, like the big difference is you don't really care as much about Gunblade. It'll still probably be very good in Ox Force though. Okay, so Underground, this is a pretty big change. So instead of 3, 5 being the underground thresholds, it's now 3, 4, 5, 6. So at 3, everything is unchanged. At 4, you basically get the same locks for a win, but you get one more lock per loss. And then once you get to 5, it is the same. And then once you get to 6, it's 4 per win, 7 per loss. It'll be just sort of like nice to be able to get 4 in, I guess. 6 will oftentimes probably be a bait unless you get it in like early somehow. But yeah, I think it's a pretty reasonable change just to make Underground a little bit more flexible to play around. Get in that 4 Underground if you hit Sona as Kale and Vi early, or even if you have your +1, maybe you can hit 4 much earlier. So it's sort of like a nice quality of life thing. It'll make the comp, or really just sort of like the opener, I guess, because it's not really a comp, a little bit stronger. So yeah, definitely should be interesting. I mean, once you get 4 in, getting 4 per loss is pretty huge, right? You can easily start farming like huge underground. Like, I mean, imagine you start +1 underground and hit 3 underground units, so you have 4 underground in at 2-1. You can actually just lose the first 5 and then cash out 2 underground. That's pretty insane. So should be interesting. Definitely a buff to Underground, and Underground wasn't like dominating the meta, so I think that's fine. All right, some champion changes. Lux buff for mana. This unit, you don't even click on her. The only thing she's useful is a trait bot in the Natalia comp, so I'm very happy with this buff. Small buff to Fiora as well. Like, I think she's generally a pretty weak unit, so I'm happy with that. Jinx buff as well, agreed. This is a huge Jax buff, actually. So now his base spell damage scales with AP. Before it was just the scaling damage, but now the base damage scales as well. This means Mecha Jax is going to get better, and just Jax is going to be slightly better with like AP items, like JG. Like the AP will scale a little bit better. And any sort of like admin, like Battle Mage, all of that will be better on Jax. So we might see more Jax play. I think this makes a lot of sense because Jax is pretty out of the meta right now. He's very situational. I've played 3 Jax games over the last like 50 games, or like over my games on this new patch. One of them was an insane first that I ended with 94 HP because I just win streaked the entire game, and the 2 others were 8ths. So I think this Jax comp, unless you hit really, really specific setup for it, I don't think it's that strong. The game where I went first is a game where I hit the admin that is every 5 seconds your team gains permanent HP, and I hit it really early with an early Jax. I hit an early Soraka even. It was like insane. So I think outside of specific setups, Jax hasn't felt that strong, but maybe we see the return of Mech Jax. People have really just been playing 6 Brawler Jax, but like Mech Jax will get a little bit better now, but definitely a reasonable buff, I would say. 4 and 5 cost. So Talia, pretty small buff to her spell damage, but it's nice. I think she's underperforming a little bit, so I like the little small buff. Okay, so Viego changed. This is actually huge. So first thing, they're nerfing his spell damage a little bit. Okay, he was quite strong. So his damage is now centered around the primary target rather than Viego. The spell should also no longer fail to deal damage in certain situations. So if you guys have seen some of the games that I've played on Viego, I've talked about it, where sometimes Viego has a bug where his spell will just do no damage for fun. And for like a unit that is based around killing units and resetting, that's really bad. So if this prevents him from fizzling, that's good. I did hear someone talking about this change, in the idea that the damage being centered around the primary target is actually like a pretty big nerf, which I didn't really think about, but like if you actually think about it, it makes a lot of sense. So let's just pull up, like, say this is the enemy backline. So they have like Samira plus Sivir, even just say like they have like an MF somewhere around here, because they're trying to play 4 Ace. Obviously they'd have more units in, and say this is like my Viego. So my Viego in the past, he would ult like here, to ult like Sivir potentially. Ult's in the middle here, and he's going to do AoE damage to both Sivir and Samira because they're 1 hex from each other. Now it sounds like what's going to happen is, say he ults Sivir here, the damage is just going to be around here, and it's only going to do damage to Sivir and none of the units around her. So this actually like could be a pretty sizable nerf to Viego, because he won't actually be able to like hit units that are slightly apart from each other anymore. Because like him hitting here versus him hitting here is like actually a pretty big difference. So I'm curious to see how this shakes out. He was very, very strong this patch, but like is mana being a huge nerf? I'm not. I'm really curious to see how it plays out. But someone brought that up, and I didn't even really think about it when I read this. But yeah, it might actually be a very big difference. Okay, so Janna had a bug. I've talked about this before, where her spell just didn't do as much damage as it should. 20% of the intended damage. So they buffed her damage by fixing that bug. But they had to nerf the numbers of her damage, so they aren't super buffing her. And then there's some changes to like Janna 3, which I don't think really matter that much, but okay, whatever. The other thing is that they nerfed Windy Janna, which I think makes sense. It was too good. I mean, literally, like every game you check, is it Windy Janna? Okay, maybe I can play her. If it's not, probably not. I am surprised they didn't buff the others. Like Rainy, I feel like is a bit underwhelming. I'm surprised they didn't buff Rainy a little bit, but a nerf to Windy I think is pretty reasonable. And maybe with the buff to her damage, it's enough. So yeah. Continue on. Big changes to items. So TG has changed some of the drops at higher tier levels. They didn't go into that too much when they talked through it, but hopefully that's good. I don't know. There's not much here. And then Infinity Force gets mana and 25% crit chance. So I don't know. For people who weren't playing when they nerfed Infinity Force, one of the original nerfs was that they took out the crit chance. Now they're adding the crit chance back in, I believe. So kind of interesting. I mean, I do think the item has felt very underwhelming without this crit chance, and even giving it the mana feels really nice. So I think this makes sense. It was a pretty underpowered option. So I'm happy with that. It can also even be like really nice as an option now in like the Kaisa comp, like recons. You get 4 recon and get this extra crit chance of mana. That's like really nice. So now it seems like a much better option in that comp. All right, onto the augment changes, and there are some big ones. Ancient Archives 1 and 2 get buffed. Ancient Archives 2 gave me 8 gold, actually a ton. But yeah, giving them some gold I think makes perfect sense. These augments just have terrible stats. I think if you can use them well, they're quite strong. So I'm happy to see them buffed a little bit so they can shine better. Birthday present, not granting 1 gold, I think is, I don't know, when they nerfed it, initially they nerfed it to this version where it just gives you the champion but no gold, and it was a little bit underwhelming then. I know it's only 1 gold, but like 1 gold can make a big difference in allowing you to push the next level. So yeah, I'm a bit, I don't know, I think it'll definitely be weaker, but it's a very strong augment right now, so I think it's probably fine. I guess it does need to be nerfed. Roller Crown, they also just sort of like mess with the items a lot of these give. So instead of Redemption, gives Protector's Vow, which is I don't know. It's a sizable nerf. I guess they did have to nerf it in this way. It just feels bad because like getting Redemption feels so good. And Protector's Vow, I was like, okay. But like, there's no other way to nerf it really outside of nerfing like Vertical Brawlers or something. So I guess it's fine. Okay, Clear Mind nerf. And then they basically changed Clear Mind, Cluttered Mind, and March of Progress. And Hustler, even though they wrote XP instead of gold, who only give their stuff after player combat rounds. So it's just a straight up nerf to Clear Mind, March of Progress, Hustler. I mean, these were some of the strongest augments in the game, so I think it makes sense to nerf them, but these are pretty hefty nerfs, right? So there's a minion round every single stage, so you're nerfing like 1/6 of the effectiveness of it, essentially. So yeah, it is a pretty hefty nerf. It's probably correct because these augments were like insane. But yeah, I'm curious to see where the stats end up looking on them afterwards because I think it's sort of a needed nerf, but it is pretty hefty. Cluttered Mind getting nerfed in this way, but also it was underperforming like Clear Mind, so now it gives 4 1 cost, so you're basically like guaranteed to hit Cluttered Mind value with like on the first round. I think makes perfect sense, so I like that a lot. Heart Crowns, Easy Route Portal to Guardbreaker. So like a lot of these, they just gave you sort of like awkward items. So like Easy Route Portal is really nice with Heart Crown. Now they give you Guardbreaker. It's all right, but like it is just sort of awkward. These like sort of like bad items that they give you. It sort of feels bad, I think, but it doesn't make sense that they need to be nerfed a bit. Same thing for like Hustler. This is a huge nerf as well. So now you're not gonna get your gold on minion rounds for not having econ. So it's like another 6th nerf for Hustler. Hustler was like the best augment in the game at the start of the game, so I think it'll still be takeable, but it's definitely a sizable nerf to it. Same thing with March of Progress, but it was very strong as well. Micro Prime Crown giving a BT instead of Titans. I mean, I think these are still quite, BT is still quite good in like a mech comp, so I think it's fine. Pandora's items being re-enabled is fun. It was like bugged before. Okay, here's one, Prankster Crown. So they say this is a nerf, Edge of Night to Morello's. I don't really believe that. I think this is a buff. just because Edge of Night is really awkward to use in pranksters. Like, I guess you put it on like Zed and then play like Echo Zoe later. But like giving a Morello, like, which is an insane item for Zoe, you just take Prankster Crown and play around Zoe. I think this is actually like kind of a buff then. Recon Crown giving a Hodge, I also think like, I mean, Zeke's is okay, but like Hodge is quite good in that comp. So, I mean, maybe it's not a buff, but it still seems quite good. Spellslinger Crown giving a Hodge is really awkward though, because you don't have the JG to make your spell crit, so this crit could end up being worthless. And the last thing, Underground Soul instead of Gunblade gives you CC Rod. I think that is quite a reasonable buff for an underperforming augment. So yeah. Okay, and now Hero Augments. Oh my god, this is a 20-minute video already. All right, I'll try to speed through these. Galio Carry Augment sucked, so I like the buff. GP Carry Augment, a lot of people were already talking about it being like pretty reasonable in specific situations. I think if you find yourself next patch with like 3 GPs, 4 GPs early, and some AP items, you can just roll for this and like play GP reroll, and it'll be very strong with a 2-1 Hero Augment, of course. So don't sleep on this. I think it's very good. Lulu or Lux Support Augment getting buffed up a ton to be, you know, like even better than like a Poppy, you know, like she giving the shield hit your entire team augment. I think it makes sense. This one was really underperforming. Same thing with Renekton Carry. This one was really just like pretty worthless. So now maybe the Renekton Carry can be stronger. It is scary though, with the fact that you have these hero augments. Imagine you get like 4 or 5 Renektons early, like high roll, and then you see this, you're just like, okay, or you see 2-1 hero augment and you just roll for Renekton Carry, and it's like reasonably likely that you get it. Then like, oh my god, you can just have an insane setup. So it'll make some of these augments like GP Carry and Renekton Carry shine more. Like you'll see them more in your games. Just hopefully none of them are overtuned. Like I think this GP one, like I think if people figure out how to play it, like understand the situations where you play it, I think it can be very strong. So it's actually like kind of scary. This carry needed a nerf, Talon Carry needed a nerf, so I like these as well. The Annie Carry Reflector Shield, this augment was just was never that good, so I like the buffs to it. And yeah, the turtle cooldown going down, like, man, if you can actually like make this work, it seems quite strong now, but who knows. Frontline Fencing, a reasonable buff, but I still am not that excited about Frontline Fencing for Fiora. Like, what do you do with this augment? Do you roll for Fiora 3? I guess, but then like Duelist reroll, it's just, I don't know, it's not a very strong comp, so it's kind of hard to make this work. This one I am very afraid of. Rel Carry Augment. This is Hold the Line. They're buffing Hold the Line, which is Rel's Carry Augment, so it gives her 70 AP and 30% less damage. She just takes that less damage. Now it's giving her 80 AP and she's taking 35% less damage. If you look at the stats already, at 2-1 this augment was already quite solid, 4.48, and then at 3-2 it was like meh. I am really afraid of this augment in the Yuumi carry comp. I think if you get like a Rel early, or even not, if you get like some Yuumis early and you see there are 2 cost hero augments that you can hit in your first augment, you can potentially roll for this. Now the nice thing, I guess, is that usually it's not like 2-2-2 for your first hero augment. It's like 1-1-2, so it'll be hard to roll for like just this with only 4 rerolls. But like, I think this is an augment that you should potentially be like definitely like looking for. Like if you get no hero augment first and you think, okay, it's pretty likely second augment's hero augment, then like I think it's definitely reasonable to roll for it. I know the stats don't look that good at 3-2, but like this is a sizable buff, and I already think it's pretty strong. Jinx Carry Augment, so now grants Jinx 40% attack speed and movement speed triple for 7 seconds after she scores a takedown. I still don't think this one's very good. I just don't like Jinx Carry, but I don't know, maybe we'll see. Lee Sin Support Augment, so the attack speed bonus duration when he shields a target, or when any target gets shielded, goes up. I think this augment was already fine, so yeah, maybe the stats don't look that good on it. I guess it just doesn't really have a good place, like a comp that it's in good in. Yeah, Invigorate 4.5 through 4.60. Mostly like probably in the Yuumi comp, it's fine. Malphite Carry Augment. Yeah, there's another one where I just like don't really like playing a carry Malphite, so like I guess we'll see how well that does. Okay, this is a big one. The MF Support Augment, Make It Rain, now only grants 10 gold during stage 3. This is huge because like if this was in its previous form for this next patch, you would see people just hard forcing Make It Rain and just winning the game on 3-2. So I agree. Said Support Augment giving a Protector's Vow instead of a Locket. I kind of like Locket, but I think it's fine. The Janna Carry Augment, so it's reworked. It gives her 50 AP and makes her spell deal true damage, is I believe what they said. That's cool. And then I don't remember what the new augment changed, but I don't think it's that big of a difference. But yeah, okay, let's continue on. We get some small trait changes. So Anima Squad buffs, I like. I did actually have a very good 5 Anima Squad Double Trouble game the other day. It wasn't on stream or anything. It was I was making my run to make Corrupted Cup. But it was actually it was a 5 Anima Squad Double Trouble game with 2 Misfortunes and 2 Silases with the Silas Hero augment. Petrosite Chains, I think, the one that he mana reaves and also gives your team bonus mana. It does stack with multiple Silases, so Double Trouble is kind of insane. But that's an aside. I think this is a good buff, though. I think 5 Anima Squad was pretty underwhelming. Brawler buffs at 4 and 6. Okay. Man, Jax might be back on the menu with these. These are, like, decent buffs here. I already thought, like, Jax was in, like, not the worst spot, so I'm down to play some more Jax next patch, which is good. He was, like, he was definitely, like, on the weaker side, so I'm down for some small buffs to the comp. And then Mascot healing buffs as well, I agree. Like, Mascot was over-nerfed when Yumi's was broken. Small changes. Let's blow through these so we don't take too much time. Kale buffs, agreed. This unit just does not do that much damage. Raven nerfs, but they're pretty small numbers across the board. 5% here, a little bit extra spell damage, a little less armor and MR. I think is completely fine. And the Draven comp was, like, Draven reroll was quite strong, so I think it's fine to nerf those. And then Vel'Klaw's just tooltip updated to clarify that he can't target the same target for 4 seconds. I think makes perfect sense. Okay, and then there's one more thing that is actually really important here in the bug fixes section. It is the last bullet. Omnivamp now applies consistently regardless of the source. So what I understand this as being, like, what they said is that they fixed the bug where laser core units would be able to omnivamp off of the laser core drones. If that is true, that is a huge nerf to laser core, because, like, a big part of how you would play laser core the last patch is you would build some amount of healing on Zed. You even get the healing from Hacker, which is just omnivamp, and you would get that healing off the laser core drones, and then Zed would heal up with the drones. So if this goes through the way they're saying, I think this is also, like, another sizable nerf to laser core. That combined with the other changes to laser core, I think makes laser core, like, a lot weaker. I don't think it will be, like, you know, like, in the top tier. Maybe it'll be like if you get, like, a good laser core opening, you play it. But it won't be like, okay, every game I see, like, a few laser core units, okay, I'm forcing laser core. But yeah, that's it for the patch review. I don't want to go too long, but yeah, I think it's a really crazy patch. A lot of really interesting changes. So I am absolutely hyped to play with it. I'm scared for the changes, but hyped for it as well. This video is going to be going out on a Wednesday. It's not going to come out until Thursday, apparently, though today I am going to try to play some games on the PBE server with some other people just so we can get some practice on the new patch. So be looking out for my stream a few hours after I post this video. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please check out my links. You can go follow me on my Twitch so you can see when I'm live. Also check out my Metafy for coaching, my Discord if you want to hang out with other people in the community. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.